Hey everybody, this is Scoots. This is a new kind of experimental version of Sleep With Me we've never done before. So welcome. These are just bedtime stories from our podcast, Sleep With Me. And to make them feel fresh, these ones are from a couple of years ago. So if you're a regular listener, you might get a refresh. And if you're new, these are just bedtime stories from a show called Sleep With Me. They're strange, they're meandering, they're a little bit different. And all this is made possible by listeners like you, regular listeners like you. And so I just want to let you know that's how we're able to put the show out. And so if you are a fan of Sleep With Me, you listen to it on a regular basis, please consider supporting the show. You get ad-free episodes, you get ad-free story-only episodes, tons of other cool stuff at Sleep With Me Plus. That's sleepwithmepodcast.com/plus. But if you're in a position and you have some money every month, or you say, hey, maybe I don't watch that streaming service, I'd rather give it to a podcast, think about your favorite podcast. It doesn't have to be Sleep With Me, and support that podcast. If it is Sleep With Me, I consider supporting the show would be great. But if it isn't, or there's a podcast you listen to way more, brings you a lot of value during the day, please support that podcast. Podcasting's going through a different time right now, and your favorite podcast, the one you get the most out of, could use your support the most. So consider supporting it however they request support. Just check it out, like listen to the show or check out their website, or consider supporting Sleep With Me. If Sleep With Me, you say, oh no, Sleep With Me is the one I listen to the most, sleepwithmepodcast.com/plus. Thanks. Friends beyond the binary, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, whether you're a star kid or a kid who loves stars, or you're a star, or you're a kid, or you're neither, or you're neither, if you're a little bit sleepy and you want a taste of a starry sky, but a little bit more, without the action, like a cloudy, starry sky, this podcast is coming to you across the deep, dark night. I'm the clouds and you're the stars. It's time for Sleep With Me. The podcast doesn't make any sense. It puts you to sleep. Hey, everybody, this is Scoots. Just a quick message here. If you get a lot out of Sleep With Me, if you're a regular listener, you like these new things we're trying out, like the story-only version of the show. If you're new, don't worry about any of this. But if you're a regular listener of Sleep With Me, or you're a regular listener of any podcast, if you have a favorite podcast, and it's not Sleep With Me, that's totally cool. If you have podcasts you listen to way more, or you get way more value out of, I totally understand that. Consider supporting that podcast. Podcasting as an industry is kind of going through a weird phase right now. Direct support from listeners is going to be, it seems like it's going to be the future of most shows. And so consider supporting the podcast you really love. And you could do that. You could find out, you could listen to the show and see how they ask to be supported, or reach out to them and say, hey, how can I support you? Or if you can't afford, a few dollars a month, you say, hey, how else can I support you? But if Sleep With Me is the one, Sleep With Me Plus is the best way to support Sleep With Me. Sign up for Sleep With Me Plus. Not only you get an unbelievably sweet, different ways to listen to the show, but it's a huge help for us to be able to do stuff like this. But yeah, think about what your favorite podcast is, and then go ahead and go to their website, or if you already know how they like to be supported, support that show. Thanks and good night. All right, everybody, this is Scoots here. This is present Scoots, and you're going to be hearing past Scoots, which is even funnier when I talk about the subject matter of this, and I didn't even realize that till just now. And this is a little bit of a peek behind the scenes. So I recorded this upcoming episode, what you're going to hear coming up here, in April of 2021, I think. And now it's, when I'm recording this, October 2021. And I was prepping this episode, and I just felt like it was running a little bit short. And I said, well, there was something I wanted to do with this episode anyway, which was kind of a tale of the tape type of thing. And I also realized this is a great seasonal content, this part of it. And really, one of the things was there's just, so this episode's going to be about a StarKid as a whole, but I'm going to start it out talking about a VHS Christmas Carol. And if you're hearing this in the holiday season, it's available to purchase or to stream. I highly recommend doing so. It really made it made my holiday season last year. It was one of the first StarKid productions I got to consume, as my daughter, as you'll hear about in a minute, is a huge fan. But there's also songs that I just like the performances, the fact that it's done in this VHS style, the fact that they produced it and made the best, like they did what they could to be creative during 2020, 2021 is inspiring. But it's really good. I mean, that's the main reason. And I really enjoyed it. But yeah, some of the songs are still with me. But then I also said, Scoots, what could you even remember? I've seen it at least 2 or 3 times because I can't remember. It was like one of those paid, like a rental in some sense. So we paid for it. And I think we had it for 48 hours or a week or something where we could stream it. And the music is not on Spotify. It might be on Apple Music or, purchase it so that everybody from the kids from StarKids can get paid. And make sure to pay to rent it this holiday season. So it's a Christmas Carol. It's done in a VHS style. It's a musical. And it tells, of course, a story about Scrooge and the Cratchits and... the first song I definitely remember, Bah Humbug, and I can hear it in my head. It kind of talks about everybody's talking about Scrooge. So in storytelling, it definitely helps with the exposition, very similar to in other telling a Christmas Carol or the actual Christmas Carol, like seeing Scrooge's behavior. And we also see some of that. And Scrooge is wonderful. And I'll talk about the cast, past Scoots in the future. We'll talk about that. So that's funny because I'm present Scoots for me, past Scoots for you, talking about past Scoots for me, which is future Scoots for you. And the intro is by past Scoots. So that's the first part of the story, talking about Scrooge, introducing the Cratchits and Bob Cratchit. And then there's the Jacob Marley sequence, usually, just like in other tales, who kind of gives Scrooge a warning. And in this one, he says there's going to be 3 spirits as the next song. And I can't quite hear this one, though. I mean, I'm sure I remember it. It says there's like a dancing sequence with Marley, and I'm just trying to hear it. But I mean, the next song, I guess, is just dominating my attention. So hopefully, I mean, by the time you hear this, I'll have rewatched it if it's the holiday season. Then the Ghost of Christmas Past comes, and this one is one of my favorite, but probably, and it's just really good. I mean, the song has a hook, and I won't spoil the VHS 80s kind of feel of it, but it's called I'm the Ghost is the next song. Very, very catchy. And that goes kind of into Scrooge's past, right? And Fred and Belle, in this one, Scrooge's former fiance, Fezziwig, Bob Cratchit, all that stuff. And let's see, this is a Christmas Past. Then they have a scene with Belle and young Scrooge called That Scrooge. And so I'm trying to, again, when you have an earworm, it's kind of hard to get rid of it. When you have a StarKid earworm. But so there's that one. Then Scrooge obviously is back sleeping. And that's where he discovers the ghost of Christmas present. And this one is called Christmas Electricity, which is kind of explaining joy in the holiday season. And so they go to Christmas present and they go to Fred's house, and Scrooge is actually having fun. And this is Christmas Electricity. You couldn't name a kind of 80s song better, and I guess you should just settle in to enjoy it. I do remember this one, and again, thematically, really well done. Then they go to another Christmas party, again, with the Cratchits, and we kind of see, Tiny Tim and Bob Cratchit, and their gratitude and everything, and then even the gratitude towards Scrooge in some sense, and, steaks for Tiny Tim, and that's priceless. And that's a beautiful one. And again, it fits the notes and the progression of the story and stuff really well. And then Scrooge runs into Christmas Future. And, don't get it twisted. This is different than the Scrooged, which I watched last season too, and which we have an episode about. But this, so Scrooge meets up with the ghost of Christmas Future. And, they go around, they see, there's like a slow reveal. And it kind of shows like Scrooge's legacy that he's leaving behind. And, what Scrooge's, and then they see again other legacies with the Cratchits and some of the costs of Scrooge's, the impact of Scrooge's choices in the present and the past. And that's called The Final Casper. That song has a different title. But then we go into the final sequence of the story, and this song really hits. It's called, the name of the song is Christmas Day. It's a full cast, Scrooge, and then builds to the full cast as Scrooge's had a reawakening or rebirth after his night, with the cat. I already used the G word, but I guess like in this case, it's very specific. They tried to use Casper at the end. But, Scrooge has joy. He's decided to change his life and live a new life, make different choices. So he sends, the turkey to the Cratchits, goes to Fred's house, makes donations, apologizes, and asks for forgiveness, making amends. Wow. And Fred and Scrooge connect. Then Fred surprises, or then Scrooge deals with Bob Cratchit. First, he does a fake out, so they sing this song Christmas Day again. Really, really enjoyable, and just a really musical. I really, really got a lot out of. Really had fun, and just can't forget. I mean, I guess that to me. Is there songs that you can return to even non-contextually and the images it leaves behind? So there's a StarKid musical, like that one. There's a couple songs from the superhero one, but then Annie. Also, I couldn't do a full tale of the tape of Annie because it's very long. It covers kind of, I think, now that I'm removed from my talking about that, it takes this tangent about Anakin Skywalker, Vader, so far off the beaten path, but with so many different characters. I think I probably talked about it in the past. Scoots is going to talk about it more. But there's so many good ones. But again, just the joy of Annie and its love of pod racing and wanting to relive the past and recapture the past is another powerful one to check out. But my daughter watches the Oregon Trail one over and over again, and the guy who didn't like musicals, which I don't think I've seen either one of those, sat down, I apologize, straightforward, watched them beginning to end, watched sequences of those. But yeah, those are StarKid places to start with StarKid. Starting StarKid this holiday season, maybe they have a new holiday, because they did the one about shopping too. Maybe they have a new one this year, but definitely check out VHS Christmas Carol. And I'll even put a link in the show notes for it, and support some people out there making creative stuff. Thanks, everybody. All right, everybody, this is Scoots here, and this is definitely the first time we've done this style of episode that I can remember. And this episode, I think I was talking about, the intro was prepared by my daughter, Sophia. So we're calling this Sleepy StarKid Stan. And we're going to talk about StarKid and some of the musicals they made so you'll understand it better. And it looks like I got 12 pages of notes. 60 divided by 12 is like 6 minutes a page. And, Sleep With Me exists because of a fandom, really. And so being a fan is something I like to encourage, a respectful fan, a fan that enjoys stuff and reflects on it and then is maybe inspired by it. But that's why Sleep With Me exists, is like in the aughts, when I first started listening to podcasts, a lot of the podcasts I was listening to were shows like fans. There was one genre I listened to was fans of theme parks. So that's kind of where I met Ray. And this was years before the podcast, like 5, 6, 7 years before the podcast. I listened to a podcast that Len Testa was on. And actually, I found recently that I even missed a lot of podcasts. There was this whole genre of theme park fan podcasts back then. Some of which, even the one Len used to be on, WDW Today, it exists in a different format and with different hosts now, I think. But let's see who was on that. Like Mike, Matt, and Len. But so there was a couple other ones that I didn't even listen to that now I've kind of discovered. But I wasn't really listening for the content as much as their fandom of their enjoyment of the content they were talking about. It's kind of like Ray, and everybody has a different relationship with stuff, so that's great too. It's like some people might enjoy the immersiveness of Ray's trip reports. What I enjoy is listening to his appreciation of stuff. And so at some point, I think over 2020, but maybe it was before this, my daughter became a fan of StarKid and all the performers and musicals associated with StarKid. And, when your kid's excited about something, sometimes you're like, okay, that's great for you. But you really I think it adds a connection to be like, okay, let's sit down and let me enjoy this. Not just through your eyes, but let me enjoy it myself too. And I think it was, at first I just wasn't ready for the ones she was a super fan of. So I kind of dipped my toe in, and then I slowly descended into the StarKid bathtub. StarKid, it's not StarKid, so I probably will mix it up and call it that. And in my opinion, everybody associated with this really should, is really, really talented and have a great love for. And, there's a couple of people, and it's interesting, there's like a small tangential connection to the podcast even through one of the breakout performers of StarKid, though every person at StarKid will be eventually breaking out. I'm convinced of that. And maybe breaking out means behind the scenes, because I think that's like a really good place to be. So let's start with our notes. What we're going to do here is we're going to go through the founding of StarKid, and then we're going to go through some summaries of Annie, Christmas VHS, Holy Musical Batman, and AVPMS, which I think is a very Potter musical S. I don't know what the S stands for, but StarKid, I almost said FarKid, just because I saw founding. StarKid was founded, according to Michigan Today, March 9th, 2011. And this is from StarKid.com. Brian Holden and Nick Lang were roommates. And Matt Lang, who was Nick's brother, wanted to put on a show he and his friend had an idea for. And so the three of them wrote the script over the phone. And here's where, your first breakout performer, Darren Criss. Yeah, that Darren Criss. Though if you're a Darren Criss fan, you already know all this. And I'll go on to Darren Criss. Darren Criss, one wonderful, wonderful performer. And actually, I've had to slowly, I discovered Darren Criss in 2019, on a cable show. So let's see. Okay, so the three of them wrote the script over the phone. Then Darren Criss and AJ Holmes wrote the songs for the show. And all the roles were written with a specific person in mind. So this was their first musical. With Darren Criss was going to be Harry Potter. Okay, this explains a lot of it. And then it was originally produced as Harry Potter the musical, but then it became a Very Potter musical. probably because of some sort of complication with legal stuff. And this was April 2009. They put it on at the University of Michigan as part of the Basement Arts program. And then it was put on YouTube just for the cast to see it, according to this. And then it became one of the most watched channels on YouTube. So it quickly became, because of the popularity of Harry Potter. And the channel was called StarKid Potter at first because Draco Malfoy says in the show, in a British accent, which I can't do, Rocket Ship Potter, StarKid Potter, Moonshoes Potter, transversing the galaxy for intergalactic travels to pig farts, which makes my daughter laugh the most. But the first StarKid musical I saw, let's see, I just want to run through. Okay, so this is, so the first musical I saw was Annie, a parody. And again, sometimes as a parent, you don't have, you're so busy parenting and like you need a chance. You also need your, like, at least for me, I can only speak for me, I guess. Like sometimes you need to be kind of shaken out of your parental malaise and you're making a sleep podcast or whatever your job is, malaise. And I knew this was really important to my daughter. So I said, okay, let's sit down and let's watch. She said, why don't we start with Annie? Because you're a fan of Star Trek or Star Wars, and I think you'll really like this one. And I'll be honest, like I'm not an easy person to introduce stuff to because I tend to, I have issues with CRONTROL, and I'm like full of skepticism. I mean, like a lot of people that listen to a sleep podcast, even though my daughter, but a lot of times you want to try to meet people on their level, like meet their excitement, you know what I mean? And then there's still a skill I need to work on and improve in. And I feel like this one I was able to get to, like, I was able to have some progress, not perfection, and say, okay, let's watch this. Let's put down the phone. Let's put aside everything, and let's try to suspend our disbelief. And I think we even talked about that. And oh boy, was I able to suspend my disbelief with this. And it's a parody based off of Star Wars. Oh boy, what was that Star Wars? Like, you got to see this thing. If you're a fan of Star Wars or you experienced a level of dissatisfaction, like if you ever wondered what would it be like to reinvent that Star Wars movie, Episode 1, I don't even know what it's called. Like, let's see, there's Clone Wars, the Darth Vader one, and this one, Phantom Menace. Is that what the first one's called? That's a pretty good title. And I guess that's what it was. So I don't know if it's specifically just the Phantom Menace, but it does, yeah, I guess it kind of jumps around, but it mostly focuses on the Phantom Menace and just like if you could say, let's just go for it and let's just have fun and let's make this as fun as possible for everybody. And I guess if they made this after the Potter musical, like they probably had an idea of like, okay, what worked well or even what jokes. So if this was my first one, so all the jokes felt very fresh to me. But it has Anakin Skywalker. It actually has Anakin Skywalker and Darth Vader in both roles. And really, Chris Allen, like, especially as I feel like, he's Annie and Darth Vader, because that's kind of the fact of the matter, right? Anakin, spoiler alert. But I feel like Chris Allen really captured, and I think this is probably why StarKid is so good, is that the performances and the songs and the musical are in service to not just the audience's enjoyment, but also to whatever these things that are going on below the surface. Or at least that's how I felt. I felt like the Chris Allen performance was tormented enough, but not in a way, but in a fun way, I don't know. I'll have to rewatch it, but I'm just picturing, like, I knew as soon as I sat down, suspended my disbelief within the opening scene. I said, oh boy, this is something that's going to be a little bit different. And because he's trying just so hard, Darth Vader or Annie, in the opening couple numbers. Okay, it also has Obi-Wan Kenobi, Emperor Palpatine, Jar Jar Binks, a couple of stormtroopers. And this is StarKid's summary of the show. Annie Skywalker is in the dumps. We all know that Padma went to the big spaceship in another universe. He's stuck in a bogus government job he dislikes. And he spends most of his time staring out into space thinking of the good old days. But things are about to change for Annie as he sets off for adventure in the galaxy's biggest comeback. And again, they really play with genres and stuff like that. And you can kind of see, like, even, I don't know where all of the members of StarKid were in their, life journeys, but it almost has a post-collegiate-esque feel, or actually, like, somebody in their 40s feel to it. But let's see, we have Chris Allen as Annie, Joseph Walker as Tarkin, Denise Donovan as Mara, Brian Holden as JJ, and I think JJ's Jar Jar. Oh, yeah, Jar Jar. Julia Albin as Emily, Erica Gale as Sebulba, Joe Moses as Bob and Veers, Meredith Stepien as Ula, and Nick Lang as Obi-Wan and as Palpatine. And then creatively, the creative was Nick Lang and Matt Lang did the book. The music was by Clark Backtresser and Pierce Siebers. The director was Matt Lang. The assistant director was Nick Lang. The music directors were Clark Backtresser, Pierce Siebers, Katie Spellman did the choreography, Jen Lang and Taya Smith did the sets, Nick Lang and Matt Lang did the costumes, Sarah Petty did the lights, Mark Swiderski did the sound design, Ruby Summers was stage manager, and Jeff Dumbroff did the assistant stage manager. And then the music was keyboard and vocals were Clark Backtresser. Keyboard 2 was Pierce Siebers and vocals. And Max Evard did vocals in keyboard 2. Corey Richardson on guitar. Mason Cormie on bass. And Nick Cabot on drums. And Meredith Stepien on percussion and backing vocals. And here's the song list. Annie. Long Ago and Far Away, Strike Back, With My Own Eyes, The Force, You Got It, Haunted by the Kiss, One in a Million, and then Back on Top. And it follows, I don't want to spoil it for you, but it follows, like a pretty straightforward plot. Like that doesn't happen in Star Wars, and it's just really fun. And again, like you can relate to Annie, or maybe there's like a couple love stories, or there's other people that are down on their luck and need to come back too. And there's a father-son thing with Palpatine, and there's some competition with Grand Moff Tarkin. So it's really fun. Really fun movie. And then there's just a lot of inside Star Trek jokes. Okay, then the next musical, I don't know if this was the next one I saw, but it's the next one on the list. I either saw this one next or the one after it, and that's super important. But this one's called The Holy Musical Batman without a T, because again, with not an A either, but like the other kind of A with a circle around it. Because again, I think that you got to deal with the people that own this stuff. But it's a parody musical based off of Batman, Superman, and DC Comics. It is very pun heavy. The Annie has a lot of puns in a different way, or like I think it's knock jokes, right? And I would love to know, I mean, maybe the Langs are just, and everybody that works on this is really just brilliant, or how many pieces of paper they have where they were sketching out puns over and over again, or how much improv worked its way into the final performance. But it's really cool. So, Holy Musical Batman. Let's see. StarKid summary says, Holy Musical Batman. It's time for stopping people doing stuff, shenanigans with everyone's second favorite superhero right after Spider-Man. You know, he had that stuff with his family, and this young billionaire makes a solemn vow to dress up like an evening bird, and Wade should, try to deal with the rogues of Gotham. So get ready to see the dark night you've always dreamed of, singing and dancing. So this one was also very fun. And again, it had like some conflict with Batman and Superman, and just how heroes are perceived. And I don't know, I thought it was, so Joseph Walker plays Batman, and then Nick Lang played Robin. That's definitely Robin added a lot. Brian Holden played Superman. Jeff Blim plays Sweet Tooth. Chris Allen played a lot of other people played a variety of other roles. Chris Allen did Lucius Fox, O'Malley, like a web slinger, Two-Face. Dylan Saunders played Scarecrow, Green Lantern, narrator, Egghead. Lauren Lopez was Commissioner Gordon, Calendar Man, King Arthur, Green Arrow. Nico Auger played Sluggers and Sherlock Holmes. Julia Albane played Vicky Vale, Mother Goose. Jamie Lynn Beatty played Candy and Poison Ivy. Denise Donovan, Catwoman. Jim Pavolo played Malone, Mr. Freeze. Meredith Stepien played Riddler and Chase Meridian. Nicholas Strauss played Penguin. O'Hara, Mixoplex. This one, the book was by the Langs, Nick and Matt Lang. Music was by Nick Gage and Scott Lamps. Directors were the Langs. Katie Spellman did choreography. Scott Lamps and Nick Gage also did the music direction. Corey Lubowicz did the set. June Saito did costumes. Sarah Petty did light. Sound design was by Mark Swiderski. Angel Kissel did the stage, and Laura McKinnon did hair and makeup. And Nick Gage was on one synth, Scott Lamps was on another, Max Savard was on another one, and Justin Kona was on drums. And they did a bunch of songs in this one. So they had Holy Musical Batman, A Dark, Sad, and Lonely Night, Rogues Are We Reprise, the dynamic duet. Then Robin Sucks is The American Way, To Be a Man, and Super Friends. And so this one was yeah, you can kind of see, but there's so many puns and so many villains. They kept it's just really fun one. And there's they were able to do a lot of action. This would have been really fun one to see in person, because there's so much going on the stage. Okay, this one we saw at the holidays, and this was like a streaming purchase, and it was worth every penny. And if you have a chance to buy it next year or rent it next year, please do, because it is absolutely worth every single penny. I don't know how many times we watched this, but it was really, really well done, especially considering it was 2020. Like, they were really able to deliver something special for 2020 and like a stage show you could enjoy. And that was, you could tell how much they considered how they were making it. And it had to throw back to stuff that they like. So it's called the VHS Christmas Carol. And it was an original musical based off of Charles Dickens' Christmas Carol. It was made during 2020 as a virtual performance with editing and green screens. And the StarKid summary says, join StarKid for a new holiday tradition blending Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol with 80s musical videos in a scintillating live visual album experience. The reimagining of the classic tale from composer Clark Backtresser features an all-star kid cast serving up vibes from Christmases past to offer an escape from Christmas present and a cutting-edge blend of live and film performances straight out of the Christmas future. And this was just so good. So we had Dylan Saunders played Scrooge, Corey Doris played Fred, Joey Richter was Bob Cratchit. Meredith Stepien was Jacob Marley. Jamie Lynn Beatty was Ghost of Christmas Past. Probably, if you have to pick the Ghost of Christmas Past song might have been the best song. Brian Rosenthal was Young Scrooge. Brittany Coleman was Belle. A.J. Holmes is Fezziwig. James Tolbert is the Casper of Christmas Present. Lauren Lopez played Emily Cratchit. Jamie Burns was the Casper of the Christmas Future. Allie Gordon was Turkey. Brian Holden played Tim. And Clark Baxtresser was the narrator. And this one was written by Clark Baxtresser. It was directed by Corey Lubowich. Produced by Brian Holden and Corey Lubowich. And this was just a really fun one. And I guess because it was a little bit shorter and because it wasn't a stage performance, I think maybe like it was much more song based. And I mean, because it's these parody musicals, so this was more of a parody musical, something that's in the public domain. And because it was done, everybody was doing it kind of with green screens and stuff. The songs maybe were more easily consumed over and over again for me. But I really enjoyed the first song is Bah Humbug with Scrooge. Spirits was really good. I'm the Casper of the Christmas Past. That Scrooge, Collect Christmas Electricity, Priceless, The Final Casper, and Christmas Day. And it was just really fun to watch. So I don't know, I really, really, really enjoyed it. Then we have kind of what made StarKid famous, even to my daughter, because kids today, or even more now, and especially with the ubiquitous in the internet, things you're a fan of, you want to consume more and more and more. And then when there's these Venn diagram overlaps, it makes you even more likely to consume even more. So it's like fan fiction and fiction and stuff may not be everybody's cup of tea or parody or whatever, but like when you're already like a big fan of something, then discovering something that's also really good is cool. And so this is AVMPS, a Harry Potter musical series. And it starts off with AVPM, a Harry Potter musical, which was originally Harry Potter the Musical. And this one, it's a musical parody of the Harry Potter books, but it's based off of multiple books, most recognizably Goblet of Fire. And this was the first StarKid show, and StarKid summary goes, Harry and his pals are in for adventure when the one who can't be named returns to deal with the boy who, was in the world living. So take a ride on That's Who's Not's Name's flying machine and get ready to get back to Hogwarts. Yeah, and this was a big one. This was Darren Criss as Harry Potter, Joey Richter as Ron Weasley, Bonnie Grusin as Hermione Granger, Joseph Walker as Voldemort, Lauren Lopez as Draco Malfoy, Jamie Lynn Beatty as Ginny Weasley, Dylan Saunders as Dumbledore, Brian Rosenthal as Quirrell, Joe Moses as Snape, Jim Palvolo as Goyle, Brittany Coleman as Beatrix Lestrange, Tyler Brunsman as Diggory, Devin Little as Cho Chang, Richard Campbell as Neville Longbottom, Julia Albane as Crabbe, Sango Tajama as Lavender Brown, and Lily Marks as Molly Weasley. And the book was by Nick Lang, Matt Lang, and Brian Holden. Music by A.J. Holmes and Darren Criss. Matt Lang was the director. Musical director was A.J. Holmes. Stage manager was Emily Stromberg. Costumes were Marguerite Woodward. The band was A.J. Holmes, Carlos Valdez, and Joe Carroll. And they had the songs Going Back to Hogwarts, Different as Can Be, Ginny's Song, Harry, Different as Can Be Reprise, Dragon Song, Ginny's Song Reprise, and Cho's Song, Granger Danger, Dance Again, Missing You, Not Alone, Voldemort is Going Down, Not Alone, Going Back to Hogwarts Reprise, and then the bonus track, Pig Farts, Here I Come. And we just rewatched this last couple nights, and it's just, this was a great musical. And you could kind of see why it was so successful, and then the cast was so successful, and just that it was so popular, and it could get another piece of fandom. But I was looking on this one Tumblr, and a lot of people went to the books after they saw this musical first. So it was like StarKid, they were StarKid fans first, and then they became fans of the underlying material here or in other cases. And then after that, they had AVPS, a Harry Potter sequel. And this is the second one, and ends up as a 3-musical series. This is also a parody of multiple books, Order of Phoenix and Philosopher's Sorcerer's Stone, mostly. And this is the summary. Harry and his pals are back for more adventure when they face off against wizards, forest friends, and Dolores Umbridge. So strap on your diapers because it's time to go back to Hogwarts. And let's see, we had Darren Criss as Harry Potter, Joey Richter as Ron Weasley, Bonnie Grusin as Hermione Granger, Lauren Lopez as Draco Malfoy, Joseph Walker as Dolores Umbridge, Joe Moses as Snape, Brian Holden as Lupin, Dylan Saunders as Dumbledore, Tyler Brunsman as Malfoy, Jim Pavolo as Goyle and Frienze, Jamie Lynn Beatty as Rita Skeeter and Ginny Weasley, Nicholas Strauss as Sirius Black, Corey Doris as Yaxley, Devin Little as Cho Chang, Ariel Goldman as Lily Potter, Luna Lovegood, Hedwig, and Fred Weasley. Brian Rosenthal as Seamus Finnegan and James Potter, Brittany Coleman as Dean Thomas, Lily Marks as Molly Weasley, Richard Campbell as Neville Longbottom, Sango Tajama as Lavender Brown, Julia Albane as Vincent as Crabbe and Candy Lady, Nick Lang as Arthur Weasley, Swordy, Scarfy, Pettigrew, and Big Mama Umbridge. And the book was by Nick Lang, Matt Lang, and Brian Holden. Music was by Darren Criss. Matt Lang directed. Choreography was by James Tolbert. Bruce Kisling did the music. Corey Lubowich did the sets and the costumes. And let's see, the songs, It's Not Over Yet, Harry freaking Potter, which I have stuck in my head, To Have a Home, Hermione Can't Draw, The Coolest Girl, Getting Along, Let the Games Begin, Those Voices, Guys Like Potter, You Were Never My LOVER Stutter, No Way, and Days of Summer. And then we had a Harry Potter senior year, which is the last musical in the Harry Potter musical series. It was mostly based off of Chamber of Secrets and the Hollows books. And the StarKid summary goes, get ready for one last romp of magical shenanigans because Harry and his pals are back for their senior year at Hogwarts. And the gang's in for the biggest adventure as they face off against other people and other stuff. Either way, this is the end. And I think the cast is kind of the same. Let me just see if there's anybody that's different. Ivana Lynch played Luna Lovegood. O'Brien Holden in this one plays Hagrid, Lupin, and the Basilisk. But one thing I did want to say, like, as I've been watching these with my daughter, is like, really good performances. So it's like, okay, wow, I can see, especially like just having fun, letting the audience have fun, but also capturing, like making the characters their own. And again, they had the other stuff that, you know, like jokes that kept paying off over and over again or long payoffs. But yeah, it's just like so enjoyable and so much talent, So let's see. I mean, all I can say is, like about StarKid, is that I highly recommend you checking out some of the musicals and discovering for your own and supporting them. I did want to talk about, maybe there's kind of two people that have a connection to the podcast, but Darren Criss is kind of one of them indirectly. I mean, Darren Criss, not that I know I've ever listened to Sleep With Me. And, you know, I was aware of Darren Criss, but when I saw Darren Criss, so Darren Criss was the star of a show that I try to figure out how to talk about. It came out in 2018. Let me see. And one of the producers of that show was a listener Sleep With Me. I'm not sure if they still are. And maybe like the cool, like I'm not going to say who that person is, but I was just like, when I found out they listened and that they're just one of the most impressive people in their creative work as a producer, but also like what they do with their time to support other people. But let's see what we got here. Is like this is from Darren Criss's Wikipedia page, just so like you say, okay, let me learn more. So Darren Criss is an American actor, singer. This is from Wikipedia. And songwriter. He was on Glee from 2010 to 2015. And then he won an Emmy and a Golden Globe for his role. He played a character named Andrew, and he was so good. And it was in this show about it wasn't like it was called Versace Shirts, a fashion story. Is my parody name for the show. He's also been on Broadway and movies. He was the founding member and co-owner of StarKids, where he first garnered attention as Harry Potter. And then he was in Broadway on How to Succeed in Business Without Really Trying and Hedwig and the Angry Inch. He also is a founder of Elise Fest in New York, an outdoor music festival. On Glee, he played Blaine Anderson. And he was his first number on the show reached was the fastest selling Glee single, Teenage Dream. He also has an indie pop band, Computer Games, which he's in with his brother Chuck. He's from the Bay Area, which is cool. And in 2009 is when he went to, that's when he graduated from the University of Michigan. And he did take violin lessons and was classically trained. He's learned guitar, mandolin, harmonica, piano, and drums. And he spent a lot of time focused on that. And let's see, after he got his bachelor's arts in 2009, Chris, along with some friends and classmates from Michigan, co-founded StarKid. Let's just read a little bit more about that on Wikipedia. Let's see, it was originally founded in 2009 at the University of Michigan. Focuses on musical comedies, focus on pop culture. StarKid distributes their musicals for free on YouTube or funded by Kickstarter and physical ticket sales. The Harry Potter musical did 2 world tours, 2 reunion concert specials, 3 sketch comedy tours, 3 web series. They've charted 12 albums, and they did a cast reading of Starship, and they had a musical in 2019 called Black Friday. Let's see. So they had a Harry Potter musical, then another musical about someone named Richard, Harry Potter sequel, Starship, which was inspired by Starship Troopers and The Little Mermaid, Holy Musical, Harry Potter Senior Year, Twisted, an untold story of a royal visor, which is Aladdin, and Wicked, The Trail to Oregon, Annie, a parody musical. So it looks like they put out like a couple a year for a while. Firebringer, The Guy Who Didn't Like Musicals, Black Friday, a VHS Christmas Carol, and they're getting ready to put out the 3rd in this Hatchetfield saga. And a lot of them premiered at LeakyCon in Orlando. Let's see what else we have. They did a space tour in 2001, 21 stops in 15 cities. The space in the tour stands for StarKid's Precarious Auditory Concert Experience. It had most of the main cast. They did the Apocalypta tour, 24 stops in 21 cities. Then a very StarKid reunion in 2015. That was a reunion to celebrate the 100th anniversary of the University of Michigan School of Music, Theater, and Dance. StarKid Homecoming was a reunion concert in celebration of the 10th anniversary of the Harry Potter musical. And they've also done some sketch comedy productions, 1, 2, 3 web series. A great place to get started where you would actually be supporting StarKid probably, but I don't really know. I mean, it would be their website, but also listening to their musicals on Spotify, because hopefully they're getting paid for that. But Brian Holden is also does audiobooks. He's a current member of StarKid. He's from Michigan. He was also he was an ice cream server. He's been in like he was in a Harry Potter sequel. He was in the Richard story, Starship, Holy Musical, Batman, Annie. He plays JJ. But he's on this Reach a Space podcast for kids that's somewhat new. And he's appeared on Kids Listen Activity Podcast and been a guest on a bunch of other podcasts before. I guess I should try to wrap up, though. But, like, I guess the hard thing with this is that so many people are going to be fans of specific members of Team StarKid. And this is just meant as kind of an introduction as I begin my descent into that. And then just looking forward. I mean, the one thing I love is, like, then looking forward to their careers and what's going to come out of it. But it is also this other thing that I always try to talk about when I talk about making stuff is if you're like, whether you do something creatively or you want to or you're not sure about it, is like your fandom is a great place to start, like of what you're a fan of. And when you start making stuff, remember what it's like to be a fan of things, because I guess, like, what is the connection you have with StarKid or whatever it is that you're a fan of? And what's that like? And what is it about that stuff that excites you? Is it the performers? Is it the music? Is it the humor? Is it the joy? Is it the mirth? Is it a combination of things? How does it make you physically feel? Like, what else do you like about it? Like, unpacking that stuff can then help you. It's not about taking that and making something similar as much as it is using that to inform your creation. But also, I don't know, I've always been someone that struggles with all that kind of stuff for me. And I either go in too deep or not deep enough. And so I appreciate, it's like almost like one of those things, fandom's almost something that's easier for me to observe and enjoy through other people. Like, unfortunately, like a lot of other stuff. I mean, this is why I make a sleep podcast. And at times I have trouble falling asleep. But it's like, I am a fan of fans. Like, I think I did an episode about that a long time ago. And to me, that's pretty important too. And then it's like, it's also about like getting over yourself and enjoying things. So thanks so much for listening, and good night, everybody. Okay, I want to thank everybody who became a patron recently. I want to thank Catherine, Mike, and Jessica. Thank you. Thanks, and good night to Morgan, Freya, and Steph. Thank you. Thanks, and good night to Drew, Sarah, and Mike. Thank you. Thanks, and good night to Olivia, Dinah, and Liberty. Thank you. Thanks, and good night to Rose, Catherine, and Steve. Thank you. Thanks, and good night to Andy, Nicholas, and Unintelligible. Thank you. Thanks, and good night to Jeanette, Susan, and Lewis. Thank you. Thanks, and good night to Joe, Gabrielle, and Jennifer. Thank you. Thanks, and good night to Maya, GWA, and Eduardo. Thank you. Thanks, and good night to Kate and Angela. And thank you. Thanks, and good night to Christian and Marleke. Thank you. Thanks, and good night, everybody. Thanks for supporting the show. Sleep With Me exists as a free podcast because the people that support the show via Patreon are sponsors. And we grow as a podcast by people just sharing the word and spreading the word about podcasts in general, or specifically about Sleep With Me. I'll tell you about the referral program in a minute. But just showing somebody how to listen to a podcast and where their podcast app is on their phone is a gigantic help for everybody. So thanks so much for that. Thanks, and good night. Hey, everybody, this is Scoots with like a tuck you in message here for our bedtime story podcast. We're trying out, and I kind of said this, free way to support Sleep With Me and bedtime stories from Sleep With Me is join our referral program, sleepwithmepodcast.com/refer, R-E-F-E-R. You get rewarded for introducing people to a free version of Sleep With Me, including access to Sleep With Me Plus. But most of all, just think about what your favorite podcast is, or one of your favorite podcasts, and then support that podcast. It doesn't have to be Sleep With Me, but just to support your favorite podcast, because they could use your support right now. And if you decide, Sleep With Me is actually my favorite podcast, well, wow, blushing, seriously, even though it's imaginary here in this context, and support it at sleepwithmepodcast.com/plus. Or listen to a show you love and see how they want to be supported. Thanks.